Welcome to A Toast to Truth. This is where I share the mental, financial, and emotional frustrations of being an entrepreneur. This is season 9, episode 3, and we're going to talk about paying rent versus buying groceries. This week's question is how to decide which bill to pay. Now remember, this season we're talking about the real struggles of entrepreneurship. Well, let's go ahead and dive into this one because this is really what makes or breaks a person from sticking with entrepreneurship. So remember in episode 1, I talked about the shame, the secret shame that people carried. And I shared how I didn't feel that I could do the other things that entrepreneurs were doing, I guess you could say, as far as the social life is concerned, because I was focused on paying bills instead of balancing a social life with my blog. Now, one thing that I have struggled with, especially when I was going through my depressive episodes, because when I went deep into them, the one that was definitely in 2015 and the one in 2018, I stopped really doing things with my blog, so I really wasn't making money. And so at that time, during both of those times, I also was not working full time, so I was really dependent on my blog income, and I didn't create passive income or anything at that time. I don't know if I've done a blog post on that or not. I mean, a podcast episode on that, but maybe I should. Anyway, so it was struggle fest. I mean, I was struggling to pay bills during those 2 times in my life. I had support from family and friends, and people would do what they could to help. But I'm going to talk about something that is usually not really shared so openly as it was, so openly until people quote unquote make it. Well, again, I believe everyone should have their own level of success, and personally, I feel I'm successful as a blogger. So I guess you could say I made it to the point where I can share all the things that have led me to where I am now. This episode is somewhat similar to an episode I did in season 1. It was actually episode 2, season 1, episode 2, homelessness and entrepreneurship. So I talked about it, right? But I'm going to go into a little bit more of sharing my story when it comes to the, I guess you can say, the shame and the angst and the anxiety and the frustration and the unnerving of not being able to pay my mortgage, then having to go into an apartment, also having to deal with trying to pay for groceries as well. So for those who don't know, you can always go to back episodes. I've shared it. I did a deed in lieu for my condo, and essentially what that is, the bank takes back the mortgage. It's not quote unquote forgiven, but you don't have to pay for it anymore. It stays on your credit for 7 years, but it's not a negative. It's just there. Trust me, it's already fallen off my credit. But essentially, you are giving the house or whatever property you have, you're giving the mortgage back to the bank. They take it back and then they resell it how they want to. When I left teaching, I couldn't find another teaching job. There was a lot of budget cuts happening in 2011 in education. So I started doing some private tutoring here and there, but that's not a full-time gig. And I started my blog so that I can make money, because I was like, I just didn't want to be in a position where I would lose a job and not have something else to fall back on financially. So, I some months I could pay the mortgage, some months I couldn't pay the mortgage because I had to pay HOA dues, I had to pay internet, I had to pay car insurance, buy groceries. I mean, there were other expenses. And then because I didn't understand business expenses at that time, I was doing everything for my blog, not taking account into I need to have a much better plan when I'm going somewhere, especially if I'm leaving the city, because I'm paying for transportation, for hotel, for all this stuff, right? So I didn't have that down in like 2011, 2012, 2013, I was getting a little better. By 2014, I was like, oh yeah, how much is this going to cost? Because if I'm going to this event, then I need to have a plan on how I'm going to make money while I'm there. Okay. So it took a minute for me to get that lesson. But in the meantime, I lose my condo and I have to move out. So I returned the mortgage back to the bank. They were fine with it. Again, they didn't come after me credit-wise. It did stay on my credit. It did fall off. I checked my credit report for 2019, so it's not on there. So I during this time, I'm struggling trying to pay the mortgage. And so I filed for unemployment because I was told I would be eligible. I get denied maybe the first 2 times. I finally get unemployment, and so it helps me be able to pay the mortgage so I can try to get caught up and, just have that little bit of extra money to pay bills as I'm building my blog business. But like I said in episode 1, I didn't really know any other bloggers who were making money. So I was really kind of like a fish without water. It was just crazy. I'm piecing together things that I've learned from entrepreneurs trying to create a financially sustainable blog. So it's chaotic. I don't know what I'm doing. Essentially, I don't know what I'm doing. People are giving me money to do jobs for them. I do the jobs. We finish out contracts. Maybe it's for 6 months or whatever, but it's not enough because I don't take into consideration taxes or blog expenses. I also have bills to pay. So getting unemployment was a financial relief. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough where I didn't have anxiety related to paying bills at the time. So, eventually, unemployment runs out. And you're thinking by the time it runs out, you should have your financial footing together. I did not. So I go and I leave the condo. And then after that, it was kind of like sleeping on other people's couches, floating around from relatives and friends. I have stayed in extended stay hotels. So it was very chaotic. It was very chaotic because I'm still trying to run my blog and I don't have a place to live, essentially, and I talked about being a homeless entrepreneur, like I said in season 1, episode 2, but I didn't go into detail about it per se. Goes to the shame, right? But I'm not ashamed, and I should not have been ashamed. These were decisions that I made. I made them consciously, so these are the consequences of the decision. I could have gone to get another full-time job after leaving education instead of trying to start a blog business, right? So I made the choice to work for myself because I didn't want control given to someone else over my finances. So that is why I did that. So I struggled. I struggled to keep a roof over my head. And there were a lot of times where my trunk had all of my stuff in it, and I would be going to an event to work, and then after the event, text to see who would let me sleep on their couch. Like, it was a real thing, y'all. For real. It was real. But I never wanted my personal home situation to affect the work that I did, because I felt that if I continued to do quality work, I was going to continue to get paid to do it. So it just, the hustle, it does kind of burn you out. It does kind of get to you after a while, because you feel like you're a hamster on a wheel, that you're doing stuff, you're moving, but you're not going anywhere. So then I get this job at this school that I hated. Didn't know I hated it till I got there, but I hated it. And they hired me part-time. Eventually, they moved me full-time because I am an excellent educator. I can get in the classroom and I can teach my face off. I'm very good at educating people and getting them to really connect their life to the lesson that's being taught. So I'm very good at that. So I go from part-time to full-time. It helps, some, but it wasn't a lot of money. It was adult education, and it just wasn't a lot of money, but it was better than no money, right? So during this time, I'm not making as much money from my blog because I'm getting ready. This is like, the right after my 30th birthday. So it's 2014, and that was kind of the beginning of me going into a very deep, dark, depressive episode that lasted about a year, from about August 2014 till about August 2015. So I get hired there in that school in August 2014, part-time. I'm doing very well. So they eventually bring me full-time because they had let some other people go. So I'm taking all the hours I can get, right? But I was, doing fusion at the time, hosting fusion events. I'm sleeping on a couch of it was a friend at the time, and I'm working at this school, and my car is acting up. My car is the only way I could get around to manage working at this place and hosting all of my events and doing stuff. So it was just, I just felt overwhelmed, and that why is this happening to me? Why am I not able to figure out how to break through, because I'm good at what I do, and start making the money so I'm not sleeping on other people's couches, that I'm not staying here and there at an extended stay, and that I'm not having to work a full-time job that I absolutely hate. I hated that job. But it was helpful to pay bills, because luckily the friend that I was staying with, they did not ask me to pay for anything. I did give money, when I could, but it wasn't pressure on me. So that was a relief. That was a huge relief. And so if you have people in your life who are helping you when you are like at one of the lowest points of your life, be grateful. Even if you're not in touch with them or in contact or whatever, be grateful, because I am grateful to this person. And her whole family. I am eternally grateful that they supported me as I was trying to get my ish together. Okay. So, I eventually get up on my feet. I move out to like A-Leaf. I get a roommate. That didn't work out. She was on my nerves, y'all. But anyway, so I get a roommate out in A-Leaf. I stopped working at the school. Thank you, Jesus. And I am back at a previous consulting job that I had. I left that job because I wanted a certain amount of money, and they said no then. They called me literally as I was walking out of the door when I resigned from that school, asked me to come back, and they offered me what I had originally wanted to be paid. So I go back to them, and I'm also doing this summer camp teaching English to high school students from around the world. So they came to Houston for the summer camp. So, things are moving up essentially. So I get the apartment with the roommate who I can't stand, but it's an apartment. It's not sleeping on someone's couch. It's not staying in an extended stay hotel. So, I'm paying the rent, bills are paid, car starts acting up now. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, really? So eventually I don't have a car. I think it was by 2016. The car just totally went kaput. And so anyway, by this time I'm getting back on my feet, right? If you are a single woman who does not have a trust fund, who has no one you can turn to literally pay all your bills while you're building a business, you are going to have some tough moments. You are going to feel alone and frustrated and angry. You could become bitter. And you just want to know, why isn't anyone there for me? Why isn't anyone helping me? They see I'm struggling, but do they? Have you shared that you're struggling in that way? Now, friends of mine knew, and they supported and they helped, and they would refer people to work with me, and they would do what they could. Some of them let me stay with them, and so I did share with my close friends, and they supported and they helped the best way they could. And so if you were in a similar situation and you have people you can trust, reach out to them, share. Okay, so anyway, I am, getting on my feet. I'm feeling good. The mortgage was taken care of, and I'm not in any debt per se, because I had been working. By this time I have really stopped kind of taking blog work because it was just overwhelming. And I also started this podcast when I was in that roommate situation. So that's one good thing from the roommate situation. I started this podcast. So 2016, I started the podcast. But I felt like, finally things are going to be on the upswing. And then it just, for some reason, it just kind of started to dissolve. And I'm just like, what is happening? Again. And I'll share more about that when we come back after taking this sip. Houston Catering Concepts is a full-service catering company in Houston, Texas. They are looking forward to catering your next event or family celebration. You can choose from Mexican, I love Mexican, Persian, barbecue, and more. Oh, and they are the food sponsor for Get Me Paid Influencer Bootcamp. Contact them today by phone 832-594-7296 or email orders with an S at houstoncatering.com. Mark your calendars. September 19th is the Get Me Paid Influencer Bootcamp. It's a one-day conference helping you understand the operational side of being an influencer so you make more money. Throughout the day, you'll learn different strategies you can add to your action plan. And that action plan is what you will implement when you leave. Make sure you go to gum.co/GetMePaid19 to get your ticket today. No matter what, the freedom of waking up and not stressing out about money, paying your bills, getting things done, especially for your blog, is indescribable. And we want you to have that feeling too. So make sure you go to gum.co/getmepaid19 to get your ticket. Okay, so we are back. And okay, so before we were talking about, things were on the upswing, and then all of a sudden it started to dissolve. That is when I got to the point where I had to go to a food pantry because I could not afford groceries because I was no longer working full time. The consulting position was not full time, it was contract work. And I wasn't making money from my blog, so I could pay my bills, but I was struggling trying to also pay for groceries. So I go to a food pantry in the area, and it helped out. It gave me food so I could supplement what I could afford to buy. And I just felt this immense shame going in there because I'm like, I'm the person who helps other people, and I shouldn't be the person who is receiving this help. And it was a friend who told me, she was like, sometimes we need more help than we're willing to acknowledge. And so I took the help, I got the food, and it allowed me to really kind of get my finances together during that time. So for a few months, I went to a food pantry so that I would have food to eat while I was working the contract position. And so this was in 2016. So it wasn't that long ago. But yeah, it was one of those things you can't see yourself in that situation. Like, you can't plan for it, right? You can't plan your life where you see yourself filling out the paperwork at this food pantry at a church so that you could eat. So that was like a kick in the pants that I needed to kind of really get back focused on my blog so I can start making the money that I was making before. And during this time, again, I was pouring into everyone but myself. Everyone was getting a piece of Vernetta, energy, effort, time, resources, money, everything. I didn't have the support that I needed when I was running an organization. I needed people to step up into their roles, but they weren't doing that. So I was picking up slack. And so me picking up slack didn't allow me to actually focus on my blog or find other avenues for me to get paid because my attention and my focus was keeping the organization running smoothly and making sure that everything for the organization was done. So again, that is a choice that I made to put other people before myself. And so do I regret that situation? No. In fact, I don't really regret anything I've done in my life, personally, professionally, anything. I don't regret because they were all choices that I made. I may have been mad later at the choice that I made, but I don't regret it. Because I always try to find at least one good thing from that choice that I made. And I'm not an optimist. I hope y'all have figured that out. I'm not an optimist, but I try not to be a pessimist either. But I try to look at everything as a learning opportunity. And so it was a choice for me, a choice I made of putting everyone before me at that time. So anyway, so the food pantry situation, it was a low time for me because I just felt I should not be there. So I go to Dallas to stay with my grandfather for a while because the doctor said he couldn't live by himself. And I felt like, hey, I don't really have much going on with my life. Give me some time to get my stuff together and I could just go stay with my papa and breathe. So I did. So I go stay with him, take care of him, learn a lot about my family, stories of my mom and her siblings growing up and all this stuff. So, during those few months I stay there, I'm still trying to manage the association. Still, I'm working with private clients now, teaching English. This whole time I'm still teaching English. And remember, my car went kaput, so I have no car at this time. And I'm in Dallas with no car. My grandfather does not live in Dallas. He lives in like a small community outside of Dallas. So he has no car. I'm literally in the country. If my aunt didn't come check on me, like, come and do stuff, that was it. So I'm in Dallas, and it allowed me to begin healing. It allowed me to breathe. It allowed me to really sit down, look at my budget, get my stuff together. And I do. I work with private clients. I start paying for things. My grandfather does not require that I pay for anything while I'm staying with him. So it allowed me to financially get on my feet and still keep everything afloat. And I started putting more energy into my blog because I now had the energy, because I was not solely financially responsible for everything. So I'm eternally grateful for my grandfather giving me that time to breathe. So I come back to Houston, and I don't have a place to stay because I come back. The roommate and I didn't work out. So shout out to my mentor teacher when I taught in the district. She allows me to stay with her. I get a job because my blog is still not doing what my blog is not doing what I needed to do, because I'm not doing what my blog needs me to do. So I stay with my mentor teacher. She allows me to stay there until I get a job. I get a job at another school teaching English. I love this job. And I started off part-time. I eventually got to move to full-time. So I, finally, yay, I'm getting my own apartment. Everything's working out. Things are looking up. Things are going very well. I'm not worried about food. I have a roof over my head. I'm paying the rent. The apartment's in my name, all this stuff, right? And I realize how grateful I am to have gone through the stages of not having a place over my head and not knowing where my next meal was going to come, because now I'm looking at it, and this is, when I moved into my apartment in 2017, the beginning of 2017. So I'm looking at it like, I fought my way to be here. I fought my way out of a depressive episode. I fought my way into looking at my finances, making better decisions. Like I said, I didn't have any debt, so I didn't have the mortgage. Making sure I keep my student loan stuff together and stay in contact with them so that doesn't get out of control. And so it's just one of those things where I felt like, man, I've gone through some really, really, really dark days. And yet here I am with my plate, with a place, food in the refrigerator. I can go and do things. I love the job that I have. I have the energy, and I'm putting in a little bit more effort to the blog association, because that year I was pouring a lot into them because the creativity was just, I hope you can hear the snapping. It just kept flowing. So things were good. I was in a good place, but I wasn't in a good place emotionally, but I didn't know it. So anyway, long story short, things that entrepreneurs deal with that we're talking about in this particular episode is like paying rent versus buying groceries. These are real. We have to have a place to put our head at night. We can't sleep in a car, which I have done. You can't live in a car. I have not lived in a car, but I have slept in my car. We need to be able to eat, because if we're not nourishing our bodies, we're not going to have the energy to put forth to do what we need to do for our business. Now, some people may have eaten ramen noodles for 6 months or a year. I don't like ramen noodles, so that was not going to happen. But I did eat the food that was given to me at the food pantry, even though it probably was not stuff I would have personally bought. But I did eat it because I needed to eat food. I needed to have. I couldn't go without food. I'm not one of those people. Like, I can't go a day without food and make it. I don't know why. I just can't. Maybe it's a mental block. I don't know. But I'm sharing all this to say these are things that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. You may see something on the outside, like they may drive a nice car or they may have a nice house, but you don't know they may have had to sell all of their furniture in their house to keep the lights on, or to put groceries in the refrigerator to feed their kids, or if they're single, just to keep the lights on, or to put gas in their car. I've sold things at flea markets. I put stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Like, I had no problem selling anything in my house to make money if it was going to pay a bill. That's just me. I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna figure out how to sell something to make money to pay a bill if I'm ever in a desperate situation. But for all the entrepreneurs who heard my story, who were like, wow, I didn't know, you don't need to come up and you don't need to, have any type of sympathy for me. It was choices that were made. I made choices. I moved forward. I am where I am now, where I have a roof over my head. I have food to eat. I am making money from my blog. I'm doing so much better than I was at that time where I needed to go to a food pantry, or the time where I left my condo and through the deed in lieu situation. Okay, so I'm doing so much better. But if you are going through situations where you're struggling trying to pay your rent or to eat food, it's okay to go to a food pantry. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to be there forever. If it's a couple of months just to help you get on your feet, go. If you had a job and whatever circumstances happen, you don't have a job, if you can get a severance package, get one. If not, file for unemployment. There's nothing wrong with unemployment. You had a job, you worked, so therefore the unemployment is technically something you paid into. Now you are in need, so take advantage of that. If you are good at certain things, I'm good at teaching English, so I found companies that will contract out to me. They were not even based in Texas, but they needed a presence in Houston. I was someone who could fulfill that. I would get paid to handle the contracts that they had here in the city. If you have stuff in your house, put it on Facebook Marketplace, put it on Craigslist, go to a flea market, have a garage sale, whatever you need to do to be able to pay your rent and to eat while you're building your business. Those are choices that you have to make. And whatever choice you make, just know you're making it for a long-term effect in your life, and it's just a temporary situation that you're in. So let's get ready for the final toast. One thing I would say that I would want you to walk away from this episode knowing is it is okay to accept help if you are working towards a goal. I'm working towards a goal of building a hugely financially successful blog. And that meant I needed to take help. That meant I had to accept unemployment. That meant I had to go to a food pantry. That meant I had to sleep on couches. That meant I had to stay with my grandfather for a few months. That meant staying at extended stay hotels for a while. Whatever. My goal is to have a hugely financially successful blog. I am in a financial position where I don't have a whole bunch of debt roaming around. Okay. I'm working towards making sure that what I do is going to sustain me because my blog will be able to take care of me. So it's okay to accept help because the help is just there to give you the boost that you need in order to get to the destination that you want to go. All right, y'all. So, this was a pretty heavy. I guess you could say it was a pretty heavy episode because it's a subject that people don't share until they've reached Oprah status or something. I don't know, but it's something that a lot of people go through on a daily basis, and it's a struggle for a lot of people. And you need to know it's okay. You're not alone. There are other people who are going through it. I was one of them. I shared. And again, I'm here to tell my story. I made it through. It was not the end of the world. So this has been a Toast to Truth with me, Vernetta. This is season 9, episode 3, and I share the consequences that I encounter. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week for episode, what is that? Episode 4? All right, episode 4. Go to VernettaRFree.com for the show notes. Make sure you go to VernettaRFree.com /category /podcast.